knew something was wrong, not at the end, not when everything fell apart, but in the beginning, very early on. There were moments, small ones, almost invisible, that didn't make sense. Things I felt but couldn't explain. And instead of stopping, instead of questioning, I ignored it because it didn't look like something bad. It looked like love. And that's the part no one prepares you for. The most dangerous relationships don't start with pain. They start with something that feels right, almost perfect, just enough to make you doubt your own instincts later. Because if you've ever asked yourself, why did I stay so long? This is where it starts. Not in the middle, not at the end, but in the moment you felt something was off and chose to ignore it. And once you see this, you'll understand something most people never do. Why leaving wasn't the hardest part. Staying was. I didn't stay because I was weak. I didn't stay because I didn't see it. I stayed because I kept trying to make sense of something that was never meant to make sense. And the more I tried, the deeper I got. At first, it was subtle, nothing obvious, nothing you could point at and say, this is wrong. It was more like a feeling, a discomfort that came and went. One day everything felt right. The next, something felt off. But not enough to leave. Not enough to question everything. Just enough to confuse me. And confusion is one of the strongest forms of attachment. Because when things don't make sense, you don't walk away. You try to understand. I kept thinking, maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe this is normal. And every time I ignored that feeling, I taught myself something dangerous, that my intuition couldn't be trusted. And slowly, without realizing, I stopped listening to myself. I started paying more attention to him than to what I felt. His mood mattered more. His reactions mattered more. His distance mattered more. And mine became secondary. And that's when things started to change, not suddenly, not dramatically, but in a way that's almost impossible to notice when you're inside it. Because the moment you stop trusting yourself, you become easier to control. And I had no idea that this was happening, because what came next wasn't obvious manipulation. It was something much quieter, much harder to detect. Something that didn't look like control, but slowly became it. And if you've ever felt like you lost yourself in a relationship, this is where it begins. Because what came next wasn't loud. It didn't look like control. It didn't feel like something toxic. At least, not in a way I could explain. It was quiet, subtle, almost invisible. And that's exactly why it worked. At some point, I started noticing changes in myself, not in the relationship, in me. I was more anxious, more alert, more aware of every little shift. The way he spoke, the way he looked at me, the way he pulled away without saying anything. And that silence started to mean everything, because when there are no answers, your mind tries to create them. And I did. Over and over again, trying to find logic in something that had none. I replayed conversations. I analyzed small details. I tried to understand what changed, what I did, what I missed, where I went wrong. And the more I searched for answers, the more I lost clarity, because I wasn't looking at reality anymore. I was looking at possibilities, at interpretations, at hope. And hope can keep you stuck longer than anything else. Because as long as there's a maybe, you don't leave, you wait, you try, you adjust. And that's exactly what I did. I adjusted again and again and again. I became more careful, more patient, more understanding. I avoided conflict. I avoided saying things that could push him away. I tried to be what I thought he needed. And without realizing, I disappeared. And the strangest part is, it didn't feel wrong all the time. That's what kept me there. Because if it was bad all the time, I would have left sooner. But it wasn't. There were moments, small ones, quiet ones, where everything felt almost right. He would say something kind, look at me in a way that made me feel chosen, like I was finally enough. And in those moments, I would question everything else. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I was the one creating problems that didn't exist. So I stayed not because I didn't see it, but because I kept hoping. The good moments were the real ones, and the rest just phases, stress, misunderstandings. I told myself every relationship has ups and downs. I told myself this is what love looks like when it's not perfect. But deep down, there was always something that didn't sit right. Something I couldn't explain, but I could feel. And I learned to ignore that feeling over and over again until ignoring it became normal. I started disconnecting from myself. Little by little, I stopped trusting my instincts, stopped listening to that voice inside me, the one that was trying to protect me. Because listening to it would mean facing a truth I wasn't ready to accept. That maybe this wasn't love. That maybe the problem wasn't something I could fix. And that terrified me. So instead of leaving, I adapted. I became more careful, more patient, more understanding. At least that's what I told myself. But in reality, I was just becoming quieter, smaller, easier to keep. And the more I adjusted, the more I lost pieces of who I was without even noticing, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, internally. And because the more I focused on keeping the relationship, the less I was keeping myself. And here's the part that took me a long time to understand. I wasn't staying because things were good. I was staying because I kept remembering when they were. That version of him, from the beginning, never fully disappeared. It showed up just enough to keep me there. A moment of attention, a moment of closeness, a moment that felt like everything was okay again. And those moments reset everything. They erased the doubt, they softened the confusion, they made me question if it was really that bad. And that's how the cycle continued, not through consistencies, but through contrast. Because when something feels good, after feeling bad, it feels even stronger, more intense, more meaningful. But it's not, it's just relief. And the moment I understood that, everything changed, not outside, inside. Because I realized something that was hard to accept. I wasn't confused because it was complex. I was confused because I was ignoring what was clear. The distance, the inconsistency, the silence, and the way I felt. My body knew, my intuition knew. I just kept overriding it. There were signs, not just emotionally, physically. I was tired all the time, drained. My energy was never stable. I felt anxious for no clear reason. There were moments my body felt heavy, like something wasn't right. But I never connected it. I never asked, what is this trying to tell me? Because I was too focused on fixing what was happening outside. And this is where most people get stuck. Not because they don't see the problem, but because they're looking in the wrong direction. You think the answer is in the other person, in what they feel, in what they think, in what they might do. But it's not. It's in what you ignored. And when that finally hit me, it wasn't relief. It was painful because I had to accept that I saw it many times. And I stayed, not because I didn't know, but because I didn't want it to be true. But something shifts. When you stop denying what you feel, you stop chasing explanations. You stop needing closure. You stop trying to fix something that was never yours to fix. And slowly, you come back to yourself. Not all at once, not perfectly, but enough to see clearly again. So if you've ever asked yourself, why did I stay? The answer is not weakness. It's not lack of awareness. It's that you trusted what you hoped it could be more than what you felt it already was. And that changes everything. So now I want you to be honest with yourself. When was the first moment you felt something was off and ignored it? Because that moment matters more than anything that came after. And once you see it, you don't just understand the past, you stop repeating it. But here's the part most people don't talk about. Even when you see it, even when you finally understand everything, there's still a part of you that questions it. A part that wonders if maybe you were too harsh, too quick to walk away, too blind to see the good that was there. And that's what makes this so difficult, because healing is not just about seeing the truth. It's about learning to trust yourself again without needing proof, without needing validation, without needing someone else to confirm what you felt. And that takes time. More time than most people expect. Because you're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of a version of reality you believed in. And that's not easy. If this made sense to you, stay with me. Because there's something even deeper behind this pattern that most people never realize.